Test 1, 2. This one sounds louder though. The static on this one is loud. Test 1, 2. Test. Testing 1, 2. There you go.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Good afternoon, Ms. Murillo. Can you say hello just to test our audio?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Loud and crystal clear. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for joining us this evening. Prior to calling this meeting to order, I remind the public that if you would like to address the board in the podium, there are some yellow forms out there that you would need to fill out. Now, Ms. Delgado is not here this evening, so you can give the form to Mr. Dempsey. Make sure you do that prior till we get to the open forum, okay? With that being said, I now call this Gadsden Independent School District regular school board meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, and the time is 5:06 p.m. Vice President Rodriguez, can you please take roll call? Thank you.
Mr. Castillo,
Present.
Mr. Lira,
Present.
Ms. Murillo,
Present.
Ms. Flores,
Present.
Rodriguez present. We have established quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, today we're going to, our assistant principal here, Ms. Munoz, is going to help us get started.
At this time, I would like to we have Adriana Flores and Maritza Ramirez.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América, a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, entera, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Z symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo CIA de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas.
If you can pass up and introduce our performance this evening. Thank you so much.
Yes. So good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. Mr. Cardona and myself, we want to welcome all of our administrators, our community, and you to Loma Linda. And at this point, I want to introduce our two dance coaches, Ms. Angela Sanchez and Ms. Jaylyn Melendez, and they will be introducing their Swaggers team.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. We present to you our Mustang Swaggers. This year we added an element of cheer to our dance group because we want to go and cheer on our basketball teams during Young Guns. So hopefully that'll be something that we're able to do. And this is our first performance with our brand new uniforms. So I hope you enjoy. Our team consists of 26 members, 1 kindergartner, 2 first graders, a handful of second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth graders. But all the way, it's open to anybody K through 6 to try out, and these are the top 26 of the whole school. So we hope you enjoy. We have 2 cheers for you and a dance. All right, ladies, whenever you're ready.
That's it? Okay. Thank you, Mustang Swaggers, and thank you to Ms. Sanchez, the sponsor. That was awesome. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 3, our Superintendent Dempsey's district updates and recognition. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. First
Sir,
item we have.
I am so sorry to interrupt you. I actually messed up. Let me backtrack. Go ahead and read the mission statement. I'm so sorry, sir. I forgot.
The Gadsden Independent School District will provide diverse educational opportunities that empower students to be successful in an ever-changing world. El Distrito Escolar Independiente de Gadsden brindará diversas oportunidades educativas que capacitarán a los estudiantes para tener éxito en un mundo cambiante.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Mr. Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, thank you for joining us this evening. The first item we have is recognition of GISD's new National Board Certified Teachers and National Board Certified Teachers maintenance of certification. So these are, we're recognizing one who earned it initially and others that are renewals. And so this is a very challenging program. Ms. Lugo is going to help us with this particular item.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to highlight the successes that we've had with our GISD National Board Certified Teachers. To start with, our support group has increased in size. Two of our most recent National Board Certified Teachers have joined the team. Unfortunately, one of them should be joining us pretty soon. He was at central office. He was at GAC, thinking the board meeting was going to be over there. But hopefully he can still make it just to be present. But I will pass it over to the rest of the team, and they will start the presentation.
Okay, our GISD professional learning facilitators, we go by PLFs. We are certified national board teachers that support candidates through the PTS process. PLFs work with teachers during candidate meetings and Saturday workshops to fit the schedules of the teachers that are getting certified. They collaborate with candidates to set timelines, write goals, and provide feedback on their component entries.
And then also, there are in our district, there are 15 National Board Certified Teachers currently, and these are including, this list is including teachers, instructional coaches, district specialists, coordinators, administrators, so that we moved up in different roles, including board members.
So currently, we have 40 teachers working on their national board certification. The cohort 1 is composed of 15 teachers, and these teachers are all on their own journey towards national board certification. You have 3 years to complete the process. So some are at the beginning of it, some are getting towards the end of it. Some are retaking some components, so they have an additional 2 years to do that. So all in all, it could take up to 5 years to achieve national board. So like I said, everybody's on their own journey, and this year, I believe we had four teachers complete the process. And so we will move to the next slide, and you will see who our new candidates are.
So this year we had 1 candidate that newly achieved National Board Teacher Certification and 4 National Board Teachers that achieved Maintenance of Certification, or MOC. Unfortunately, our new National Board teacher, Stacey Fernandez, is unable to join us today, but we will make sure that she gets her plaque. We would like to recognize our other MOCs today, though. Sylvia Najera is also unable to join us today, but we'll go ahead and recognize Ms. Kathy Williams. Ms. Nancy Villagamba. And Ms. Veronica Lugo. And we have our other PLF. So I am a new PLF, Jeanette Duran, and this is our other new PLF, Carlos Enriquez. Thank you for your time tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Why don't you all come up so I think our gentleman can take a picture. So all of you come up. Yes, on the stage. There needs to be a new MBCT for dancing, ¿verdad?
Madam President, as we also recognize that group, I think it's important to know that we probably are the only board in the state of New Mexico that has a board member that's a national board certified teacher yourself. And congratulations on your maintenance of certification. Okay, on to our next item. We attempted this last go around, and this is the video with New Mexico Lexia Letters Journey, and we have a little video. It highlights several of our employees and 2 of our schools. So, Mr. Carmona.
And what's our middle sound? Is. Very good.
My teachers complain about me always because I'm constantly telling them we're building the plane as we fly. All right? If we wait until we're ready, we'll never start. All right? You just have to start.
We want to be sure that we're catching struggling readers early. We want prevention instead of, waiting for them to fail.
I just feel that they cannot go anywhere without literacy. It is their civil right to learn to read.
Some of the things New Mexico can't necessarily tackle, but I think in schools implementing letters and making it mandatory is going to set us apart from other states and I think increase the reading scores because we can already see it.
I've seen a lot of school districts who have picked this up. They're running with it. They understand it. They get it. Their eyes are opened because they knew something wasn't right.
¿Cuántas veces te has propuesto aprender inglés y terminas perdiendo el impulso? Retoma tu meta de inicio de año.
So the Gadsden Independent School District is a rural district. It's sandwiched between El Paso, Texas, and Las Cruces, New Mexico, right up against the Mexican border.
85% of our district population is Hispanic. Our school district is Title I, and every student receives free and reduced lunch.
We have about close to 12,000 students total, and about half of those students are English language learners.
We live in a farming community, and the majority of our students live in rural areas. We have 14 elementary schools.
We have been traditionally a balanced literacy district.
Statewide, we were doing balanced literacy.
Statewide, our scores, our NAEP scores, showed that we were not doing the right thing.
We saw a lot of kids who weren't reading, and so that was always a concern to us. Why aren't they reading if we're following the program the way they told us it was supposed to be done with fidelity?
We had a balanced literacy checklist that people were coming in and making sure that we had certain things in our classroom
And if we were teaching phonics, what are you doing with that?
Before, our kids were just guessing. We used to teach. I used to teach that, you know. If you don't know that word, skip. Do the kangaroo jump. And then come back and reread that word.
So I felt like the literacy was almost like a guessing. The reading was a guessing game. The lower grades could camouflage that a little better because they still had picture books. So the kids could guess the words. But as I started going up to the upper grades, the pictures weren't there anymore. So now they were reading for meaning, and that was really difficult.
The director for elementary education asked me to be part of a grant for the state called the Circle Grant. We were brainstorming. Well, if we're going to send our teachers to training, I mean, truly the choice was more balanced literacy, which would get us what we had, or we could try to go out there and find the Cadillac. And when we did the research, letters was the Cadillac. It's the piece that the teachers should have learned in college, but never did. So I'm going to these Circle Grant meetings, and I'm taking the letters and saying, okay, we need to do this as a state. It can't just be Gadsden. This is an issue statewide.
So in 2019, Senate Bill 398 was passed, and written into legislation is that all elementary teachers, kindergarten through 5th grade, will receive training in structured literacy, and all first grade teachers will screen their first grade students for characteristics of dyslexia. So in the school year 2020 to 2021, not the ideal time to be rolling out a statewide initiative, but at the same time we couldn't wait because our students needed this help.
So we started with kinder and 2nd grade. We brought it district-wide, and I'll be honest, I think they all felt like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? What, you want me to take a college course? I don't have time for this.
And I had never heard of letters before. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what structured literacy was. So the transition to structured literacy was a little rough at first.
It felt like I was having to question everything that I had done for the first 15 years of my career.
You know, at that point, I was already nationally certified. And I'm like, I'm nationally certified in literacy, but I don't know anything about the science of reading. How does that make sense?
As soon as I saw the structured literacy and the research and everything that we've been learning, I was on board. I was like, this is what we've been needing.
It was like opening up a little rainbow for me.
A true understanding of the phoneme, grapheme association.
How the dendrites and synapses are just firing off and where in the brain.
Looking at the way our mouth is formed to make those sounds.
The reading rope, if every teacher could just have access to that. As an English learner myself, this has been so empowering.
The explicit instruction that I have learned to deliver because of letters, I'm able to understand where they're coming from, where the breakdowns are happening, and then what I can do about it.
If you've been waiting to apply for disability benefits, don't. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a lawyer at Atticus.
We're in our 4th year now. Last year we wrapped in 3rd grade teachers. This year it's 4th grade, and then next year it'll be 5th grade.
Reading is important. It's very important. So we built in time in our daily schedule for a larger block for our literacy. We used to have maybe an hour and a half. Now we have a 2.5 hour block for literacy because we understand how important that is now.
Now say birth, but don't say
They are making better decisions in terms of data as well, looking at what that particular student needs rather than just, I'm going to teach this because this is what I'm told to teach.
Most of our students are 1st, 2nd, 3rd generation English learners. They don't live in one particular language. They live in 2 languages.
You know, our bilingual students can't catch a certain sound because that's not in their native tongue. So we have to teach them how to make that sound. And so letters helped our teachers be able to realize that.
In fact, letters is a bonus because you can implement the strategies and the concepts in any language, even though letters itself is delivered in English.
Welcome to Letters for Administrators.
Not only have our teachers been trained, but then also our administrators have been trained.
All of our administrators have gone through the Letters for Administrators training. Such a great way to get everybody on board.
We have at the state level. Our whole department either letters trained or now enrolled in letters training. We have all of our departments speaking the same language now. They understand that this is a huge initiative and this is what's right for students.
4, 8. Evaporate. There you go. Start again.
The growth that we're seeing now is growth that we would see like second semester. And I think honestly what it's come down to is being very intentional and very explicit in our teaching.
It just gave me chills knowing that we will be sending a solid group who will now be not just readers, but also writers.
I'm not used to being a first grade teacher who has their students coming in knowing all their letter names and sounds.
What is the word, boys and girls?
This is the first year that we have a majority of them coming with that already.
When they left last year, using the skills I learned from letters, how to teach decoding and blending, they left reading. Second grade, got readers.
So even though it's not really part of the 5th and 6th grade curriculum to teach foundational skills, they see that the students are missing it. So now all of the teachers can have the background knowledge to implement the necessary steps.
I've seen a lot of school districts who have picked this up. They're running with it. They understand it. They get it. Their eyes are opened, and they caught on fire.
Madam President, board members, if you have questions about letters, Mr. Hernandez would be happy to try to address those. What I do believe her and her team have created is some of our own experts that can deliver this at every level. And so the hope is, as we start working on training everybody, our new teachers are coming in with a little background around it, and then we really spend a tremendous amount of time with them to make sure they're able to master it. So it's a real important component of what we're doing. We're really proud of the work that's being done, and Loma Linda Elementary and Vado are two model districts, or schools within the state of New Mexico. Okay, our student representative, we have Mr. Rodriguez, who is a junior at Chaparral High School.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Mr. Dempsey. I am Mr. Rodriguez and I am the junior representative from Chaparral High School. I am here to report on the current events on the campus. So first off, both basketball teams did great. The boys went to district championships. The wrestling team did amazing, and some students went to state. Our track and field, they did good as well. Some students are going to state already and qualifying for state. And softball and baseball are starting off. So as well, our band, they went to Oregon High School in Las Cruces, and they got a D1 ranking. And they're going to Albuquerque in April to compete. With prom and graduation coming around, the seniors had their sleepover during spring break, and CHS will be hosting their annual community egg hunt this weekend, and a lot of clubs will be bringing activities and games to have fun. And that's all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 4, board member reports. Mr. Castillo.
Nothing to report this week, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lira.
Nothing to report, just I would like to thank Loma Linda for their hospitality and the food and the show from the cheer crew. Amazing. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Lira. Mrs. Rodriguez.
Well, I just want to say, I think last time the video didn't work, but I had seen it, and all the teachers that are there, it's amazing, right? It's teachers that you know have been excelling from the get-go. So it's amazing, and it's great to know that there's that passion and that dedication to continue growing. I'm happy to hear that new teachers will get that intense training that they really should be receiving prior, but it's okay. Gadsden is amazing, and I think that's the beauty of it, right? And so also for the National Board Certified Teachers, that is also dedication, right? I know it takes a lot of time, it's a lot of work, and especially to the ones that are helping out the ones that are aspiring to be certified. Thank you for doing that. I know you all have your families and have other duties, but yet you take the time to help other teachers, and that's something, for those that don't know, it takes, like I say, a lot of time, a lot of preparation, and so that's a wonderful, again, just shows what Gadsden is made of, right? Teachers that want to do this, 40 teachers, that's wow, 15 cohort 1, 25 cohort 2, great, and I think it'll continue growing. And also on Saturday, we had a work session, and it's great. It's always good to be able to work with our colleagues, and we all have our own ideas, but we work together, and I think that, again, that's what Gadsden is about, working together and being a team. And as for the things that are happening at Chaparral High School, thank you. Thank you for working on that, and thank you for presenting today. And that concludes my report.
Mrs. Murillo.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First of all, I apologize for not being able to attend in person. I am working. I am just leaving work actually right now. But also, I am watching the video, and I was watching the video at work, and I just want to say congratulations to Loma Linda, because those cheerleaders are amazing. And I love seeing the little girls there, and the new uniform, amazing as well. Yes, just like Ms. Rodriguez said, we had the workshop, and got some stuff done there. I hope everybody had a good break, and then I know there's another day coming up that they get a day off. We all get a day off, and I think that is pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, I'd like to start off my report by thanking our Loma Linda administration. Thank you for hospitality. Las enchiladas estaban riquísimas, un poquitas picosas, pero me las terminó cuando llegué a la casa. Muchas gracias. I am proud to say that when I was an employee of Gadsden Independent School District, this is one of my schools that I actually taught. And thank you for the acknowledgement. Like they said, I am a National Board Certified Teacher. And while I didn't attain the certification, I tell Las Cruces, no, it was Gadsden, because they counted my certification to LCPS, because that's when I moved to LCPS. But my work was done here at Loma Linda, and that's when a bunch of us, our school was restructured here, and then we were recruited to come and do this. So I was able to visit some fellow colleagues that I actually worked hand in hand. Ms. Sanchez was actually my daughter's teacher back in, I no me acuerdo cuándo, pero it's a beautiful school. Congratulations again to Loma Linda and Vado Elementary. I'm very proud of you. I had requested to Mr. Dempsey, and we'll get together on that. I would love to come out and observe what structured literacy looks like in action, because I have to say that I was trained under the balanced literacy model. What am I trying to say? My career hasn't led me down the path of structural literacy, so I don't have that formal training or letters training yet. So I would love to come, con su permiso, Mr. Dempsey, to come and serve you, to learn from you, because I think it's awesome. What else? So congratulations. Now, I will say this too, because I think it's important to say. The key was that we used to teach under balanced literacy. So that means that we have high school students currently, including, I've got my daughter who graduated 2021. I've got a 18-year-old graduating this year. We got our babies who are now seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, who were instructed in balanced literacy. So you know what I'm going to say, right? You know, one of our instructional leaders had, that actually coaches, Loma Linda, I believe, and Vado. She says, literacy and justice for all, right on her teacher. Literacy is a civic right. So I will continue saying as we got to do something as leaders in the state. You know, Gadsden is a leader in the state that we have to work in providing interventions to the struggling readers that are currently sitting in our high schools, because they did go through those balanced literacy programs, which makes a lot of sense why they're struggling readers, why they're poor spellers, and they know it. And so it is our due diligence that we've got to do something to correct that. It's beautiful that we're working with our little ones, but what about the older ones? Because I want to conclude this part of my report is that when they go to the ACC, even the universities, you know, I even told Dr. Torres, maybe that's why they're disenrolling, because they recognize that they are struggling readers. So let's work together. It's going to take a team to do this. So, with that being said, my whole report is on literacy tonight. So I'm going to encourage all teachers, principals, if you have not subscribed, I think it's called the New Mexico Ped Literacy Newsletter. It's wonderful. It gives the opportunities to attend PD. Someone make an announcement that currently there's a registration open for the summer convening for June the 4th and the 5th. It's, if you do Facebook, you go to the New Mexico Ped Department, they're advertising, it is free. This year, though, you'll probably have to reserve your hotel with your credit card, because some teachers register and they don't show up, and then the state has to incur the costs. So that's how they're going to hold us accountable to be present. So I would encourage, I've attended the past 2 years, it's awesome. Last year we had Kareem Weaver, who is, he produced a documentary regarding structured literacy, regarding balanced literacy, so I'd encourage y'all to attend. And then I know that higher ed is working, and one day, hopefully we'll see our graduating college students that are entering the education profession being also trained in structured literacy and how we teach reading. And that concludes my report this evening. Okay, moving on to item number 5, Human Resources Report. That is there for public knowledge. No action is required on behalf of the board. Moving on to item 6, modification of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as is.
Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the agenda as is. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 7. Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the regular school board minutes for March 7th, 2024.
Mrs. Rodriguez made a motion to accept agenda item 7 as she stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as is.
Okay, Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the consent agenda as is. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 9. Do we have any open forum this evening? Nobody needs to address the board this evening? Going once, going twice? No? Okay. No speakers this evening. Okay, moving on to our action items. We do have 2 this evening. The first one is our superintendent evaluation tool. And I'll go ahead and get it started, sir. Okay, so as Ms. Rodriguez had mentioned earlier during her report, we did have a work session that we had this past Saturday at the GAC. And so the public was invited. It's always posted when we're going to have a work session. I would encourage you to come out and see what we do during these work sessions. So with that being said, I would like to report, and by all means, colleagues, if I leave anything out, let me know. And by all means, I share the floor with you. So the whole purpose of that work session was to look at the evaluation tool. And so I do have to share with the public is that we decided not to make revisions, because that would not be fair to the gentleman at this point in time. You know, as teachers, we don't want to be told, this is how you're going to be evaluated, and then halfway or towards the end, we're going to change it on you. So we decided to leave it as is, and so Mr. Dempsey had agreed that he would be evaluated using that tool. And just for those who are watching online, those that are present in the audience, that tool was created in working with David Chavez from Cooperating Educational Services back in, oh goodness, I don't recall right now, but in cooperation with him, and there was 2 board members that were appointed or volunteered, and that was Mr. Daniel Castillo and Ms. Arlene Murillo, who sat on that committee to come up with a different tool that we could use to evaluate Superintendent Dempsey. After working it out, Mr. Dempsey, and here shortly we're going to, take a motion to whether we approve the item, because Mr. Dempsey requested that it be formally approved in public, okay? So before I do that, I just did want to share is that we had decided, sir, that we will give you there's a timeline that we created for us, okay? So we will give you till Wednesday, March 27th to fill out the form where the gentleman will self-evaluate himself and put his artifacts, hyperlinks, whatever necessary to prove that he's meeting the descriptors in his evaluation. Once that you complete that, sir, you will send it to me, and then I will then send it to my fellow colleague board members, where myself and my colleagues, we have given ourselves a deadline of Wednesday, April the 3rd, to complete your evaluation, sir, on our own, based on the artifacts, hyperlinks that you have provided for us. And then we have decided after that I will be responsible for compiling the information. And then we will, on April 11th, which is a Thursday, at that school board meeting, when we go into executive session, we will do your formal evaluation that evening, sir. That would be April 11th, which is a school board meeting, and we'll enter into executive session. So you and I need to make sure that when we meet prior to approve the agenda, that we go ahead and include that in our agenda for executive session. At this time, I open the floor for my colleagues. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, any additional comments that need to be shared? No. Ms. Murillo? No? Okay, I don't believe so. Okay. Do you have any questions, sir?
Madam President, board members, I don't at this time. Thank you.
The only thing I would ask is, that I do want to make clear in public, is I will be asking Ms. Estrella Burciaga, she just knows public, when it actually comes to going behind executive session to evaluate our superintendent, Ms. Estrella will not be part of that. That is not professional in any means. But what she might be helping me with is to keep us consistent in his evaluation. And then do you know, sir, too, that in the future we will we're talking about, it was inevitable, sir, that there are definitely some policies that are tied with your evaluation that we are looking at revising, and we made some notes on what we want to change, and then she can help us with that. And then ultimately we could probably have the draft. We can do a reading, and we can ask advice, legal advice, if we choose to do that too. But with that, any questions, comments? Okay, so with that being said, there's no more questions, comments, or concerns. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept action item 10A, Superintendent Evaluation Tool.
Okay, Mrs. Rodriguez has made a motion to accept action item 10A, Superintendent Evaluation Tool. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. And thank you for all your work that Saturday. Thank you. Okay, moving on to action item 10B, Board Committee Assignments. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, typically after we go through reorganization, We review our committee assignments. There are listed in front on the left side is who are currently assigned, and you see under equity and our Student Health Advisory Council, we have a blank. And so what I want to give the board an opportunity to do, and board members to engage in those committee, there's really good work in each one of them. Finance and budget is typically going to be about the budget development. So pretty busy time of year. It's a great time to jump in on that. Audit, there's an annual audit. The audit board members, the members assigned to the audit committee cannot be the same ones on budget. So you want to have a difference there. DACC is an advisory committee, really important and great for our community. We have our District Equity Council. That's been a very active group. Mr. Arizona has done a great job to engage more and more and grown that group, and I've been super happy with that. And then our SHAC committee, which is Student Health Advisory Council, we just recently had a meeting. Ms. Rodriguez, you were able to be a part of that. Very interactive group. I'm incredibly encouraged. Ms. Cregan, who leads that, even made the comment, I've never seen such positive activity. And that includes Department of Health and other outside agencies that are part of it, our social workers. And so I think there's some opportunities there to really maybe dig in a little bit and understand a little bit more of a depth. Sometimes at policy level and budget level, board members are at a higher level. These opportunities are a great way to dig down a little bit and kind of understand the nuts and bolts of how these items are built. Now, you have some choices. You could leave the current ones the same and just fill the 2 empty ones, but if people want to do something different, you have the opportunity to do so. You may not have time to think about it, so if you wanted to table it and come back, that's okay as well.
Okay, so do we want to, I guess for lack of a bit, reorganize our committees this evening? And I was going to make a correction on the equity. It was myself and Mr. Cano, because I think that's DC for Danny.
I apologize.
So what do we think, folks? Huh? If we want to, we can go one by one, and we can take volunteers. And do know that, I'm willing, if somebody wants to do DACC, which is the advisory board, that gives you a very good opportunity to learn higher education, and then equity. I would probably say that if you're okay with it, I would like to keep equity, but if somebody else wants to do DACC, that's fine. And I guess I would open the floor, to share, if you're currently sitting on a committee, I don't think it's wrong to say you would like to stay there, or you're willing to open the floor for somebody else to take that opportunity. That's why we're going to have a discussion, so feel free to join.
Madam President, I currently serve on the finance budget and the SHAC, and if possible, I would like to remain in those 2 committees.
Mr. Castillo?
If possible, I would like to stay where I'm at as well.
How about you, Mrs. Murillo?
Yes, I would like to stay. What time are the meetings for the DACC?
Quarterly,
Correct, quarterly.
Right.
Yeah, then I would say, yeah, because I work. No, I would like to stay where I'm at too then.
Ms. Murillo, can you speak like a little bit louder? And I don't know if we can increase the volume.
She said she would like to stay.
Yes, that I would like to remain where in the committees that I serve already.
So you'd like to remain. So does anybody, well, I don't know.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lira, which ones are you interested where you see vacancies? And first of all, are you okay with, I guess, those of us who expressed, the...
Yeah, I mean, I had some interest in finance and budget, but they've been there, so I'll respect that they've been there and leave them in finance and budget. And
si quieres, I actually sit on the audit.
On the audit.
But if you want to sit on audit, I go for it. I'm okay with, you want to do audit?
Then I'll do audit.
Okay, and is there another one that, so what-
Equity. I'll stay in equity.
okay. So then, let's see, and I haven't been taking note of this. Have you been taking note of this, Mr. Dempsey?
I've been trying, Madam President. Here's what I have. So if I have this correctly, Finance and Budget, we have Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Morillo, right? Audit, Mr. Castillo and Mr. Lita. I got a little confused on DACC.
So it sounds like Mr. Castillo and myself want to remain on DACC.
Okay.
Although I gave the opportunity, but nobody wants it, so I'll keep it.
I mean, if you're willing to, I'll take the ACC, if you're willing to give it up, and I'll stay on audit and the ACC.
That is awesome.
If you're okay with that, Ms.
Absolutely.
Madam President.
Absolutely. So go ahead, DACC, Mr. Estelita and Mr. Castillo.
Oh, terrific. Okay, so I have DACC, Mr. Lita, and Mr. Castillo. Equity, I have Mr. Lita, and then SHAC, Ms. Rodriguez. So we need to fill those last two spots.
Mr. Lita is audit and DHCC. Right?
DACC.
All right, audit and DHCC.
Which are the last two that we need to fill in?
Equity and Student Health Advisory Council.
I guess I'll, I'm sticking with equity. And then when does the SHAC meet?
SHAC meetings are typically, I don't know, Ms. Cregan, can you help me here? I want to say quarterly, but I think I might be off there. So.
Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Dempsey, members of the school board. The meetings, we try to have them 3 to 4 times a year. We do meet at 8 a.m. in the morning. Our next meeting, I think it's April 23rd or the 29th. Claudia, do you remember? Okay. And we set them at our previous meeting, we set to see what works for the members that are present.
So fellow board members, I'd be willing to join, but I kind of am hesitating simply because of my job. And unless I'm able to, if you would allow me, Ms. Cregan, to join like via Zoom, see? So let me give it a go, just simply because the other ones are like after hours. So, but I will try, and if it's too much, then I will like remove myself. But is it okay if there's like one? Because like in my case, or no?
Madam President, if I got that correct, Mr. Lita, you and Ms. Flores had switched the DACC, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you want to be on equity though? Because we have an open spot. You can be, that's up to you.
Okay. So that means I'll be the only one on equity. So I will try to, I'm saying yes right now, and then we'll see how that goes. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Madam President, board members, I just want to be sure. Yes. Right now, I only have you on equity, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, I just want to make sure my notes are accurate. And if that's how the board chooses to do it, you can do it that way. It's up to you.
And by all means, if you change your mind and want to join us, go for it. And I did want to I wanted to get a shout out to Ms. Tarazona, who is the one that leads it, thank you for changing from Wednesdays to Thursdays, because being part of the equity is realizing the culture of our district, and many folks attend church on Wednesdays. I think that was one reason. All I would ask is see if there's any possible way in the future to put it on Thursdays when there's no board meetings, if possible. Because there's been maybe 1 or 2 where there was a board meeting, and then I won't be able to join. Si se puede. Si no, no. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Madam President, just a reminder, it's an action item, and again, the board can choose to take action or can table if they feel like, but I feel like I have adequate notes if you're comfortable.
Okay. So we want to go ahead and take action on approving our assignments, our voluntary assignments to this committee. Okay, so with that being said, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept action item 10B, board committee assignments.
Okay. Mr. Castillo has made a motion that we accept action item 10B, board committee assignments, as Mr. Dempsey had stated in his notes, and thank you, sir, for taking that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? A motion carries. Okay, moving on to discussion items. Our first one for tonight is 11A, New Mexico School Board Association Student Achievement Award process to determine. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, in previous years, we've gone through a process, and we just approved at the last meeting, at the previous meeting, our list of recipients. And for several years, we really didn't have any type of a formal process. At one point, I was asked to try to design something. Ms. Delgado helped me with that. The current process entails employees nominating their colleagues. And then there's the winners from the previous year review those nominations and then determine the selection. And there's certain categories. There's an administrator, a teacher, and 2 support services. And then this year, we of course, we want board members to give an opportunity. So board members are given an opportunity to submit a nomination. And I think somewhere there was a little bit of conversation that said, is that process working? So I would ask the board, if you're not comfortable with the process, do we want to redesign it, and what would you want that to look like if we do redesign it? How can we, the goal being we want to recognize individuals, and I think we have, that have gone above and beyond for our students. And so we want it, it's important, and we want you to feel good about it. And so how would you change, adjust, what would be you guys' suggestion?
Okay, so I open the floor to discussion. Ms. Murillo, did you want to go first?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I was trying to unmute.
Go ahead.
So my question is, well, Mr. Dempsey just clarified why the process was this. I feel like because it is the NMSBA, New Mexico School Board Association, I think it is our responsibility to nominate, whether it's one per board member. I think that we should have the knowledge of our, community, our teachers, our administrators, so we can, during presentations, when we go to events, I feel like to observe and nominate those individuals, because I feel like the staff already has that opportunity when they nominate Teacher of the Year. And so in my opinion, I feel like that's something that we should take, and we should be able to nominate ourselves, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, Ms. Murillo. Anybody else? Go ahead, Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that it is great for us to have the opportunity to nominate as board members, right? But I also like the idea of employees nominating, because they are in the trenches, they understand, and they know who is going above and beyond. So giving that opportunity, I think, is a good way to express that, I guess, understanding of what it is that they're doing, right? And so I do agree that we could, as board members, we could also do it, but I also feel that there should be a limit, right? So if there's 5 of us, possibly per year, maybe having at least 2 board members, or not, if we all nominate, but then we all nominate, but only 2 of those remain, so that way it would stay, I believe it's 4 areas, Mr. Dempsey, is that? So that would make it a total of 6, right? If we continue the way we have with the employees, and then us as board members having an additional 2, like I say, we could nominate possibly, as maybe 3 per board member, but only coming up with 2 finals. Is that? 2 final nominations.
Thank you. Mr. Castillo, Mr. Lira? So go ahead, sir.
I like your approach. I think I think that's a good way to approach it.
Okay. So what I was going to propose is that I am going to agree with both of my colleagues, Ms. Murillo, and I see your point of view, Mrs. Murillo, and I also see your point of view, Ms. Rodriguez. And I didn't think of what you said, Ms. Murillo, that, you know, when we have Teacher of the Year, that's an opportunity for the teacher, but we don't have like a classified of the year, huh? Okay, so that's where I'm thinking with this award, it's an opportunity to award a non-certified employee who's going above and beyond for students every day. That's a wonderful opportunity. I would say that I still like the idea of our district's employees like nominating, because, you know, I think to some extent we could see individuals that are going above and beyond, like in our committees, if you will. Like, I'm not going to disclose who I nominated, but I did nominate an individual this year. The only way that I knew about this individual is through the committees that I sit in, that maybe that at the school level, maybe people don't know about these individuals. So what I propose is the possibility of keeping the way it's currently done, so that our district employees have the opportunity to nominate the way the system is. But then I would say find a balance where maybe each of us could bring forth our own nominee. I do believe, and probably it's a good idea to limit how many we nominate, because it would be, is it 3 or 2 from, the way we're currently doing it, sir? Was it 2 or 3?
Madam President, in total, the way we currently do it will give a minimum of, I believe, 4 every year.
So that's a...
2 certified, 1 teacher, 1 administrator.
2 certified. So like 2 teachers, or no, it doesn't have to be a teacher. It could be...
I'm sorry, maybe I said that wrong. I think it's called 2 support staff is how it's worded. Classified, classified, a teacher and a principal. So 2 support staff are nominated, or recipients right now.
Okay. So that's, yeah, I definitely, I like that, the way we've been doing it, but I would say that maybe looking into the possibility of also allowing us as individuals, based on our experiences, the committees, our activities, you know, with our communities, to be able to, to nominate the person that we think should earn it. And again, maybe with a limit, because if I come forth and say I want 10 of these people, well, how fair is it? And then that, you know, we also have to look at the budget, you know, that we don't overexpend. And by the way, where does the money come from, Superintendent Dempsey?
Madam President, board members, New Mexico School Board Association provides 1, and we purchase the rest. And they're, you know, right now I think there's $45 or $50 each. The funding is available for what I've heard here, and I think it is. I think the idea, my opinion is, the idea of possibly limiting it, then I think it increases the value of it. If everybody gets 1, then they're not usually as valuable, and if we just kind of limit those a little bit, but over the course of several years, you'll still get the opportunity to recognize a lot of people within our community, and we have a big community, so there's great opportunities there, and to summarize what I think I heard, so I'm trying to make sure I got everybody. Mr. Castillo, I don't know if I heard directly from you yet, but what I think I heard from what I'm taking away from what I heard from the board is the majority of the board likes the current process, wants to leave it in place, but possibly add an ability for the board to make nominations, and then the board maybe decide which maybe 2 or 3 of those would then be nominated. Yeah?
Do we all agree, Mrs. Murillo? Or, yeah, it's a discussion. It's a discussion item, so, I mean, if we still want to reflect on what we discussed, by all means, we can do that. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, I say yes, it works.
Okay, so, any further comments? So we all agree with Mr. Dempsey's statement from what he concluded from our discussion, correct? See? No? Okay, yes.
Madam President, board members,
It's a
what I'll do
discussion.
is I'll,
No, I know.
I'll try to draft something up
Yes, and then
so
we'll-
that you can take a look at it. We can bring it back as an action item. It's not going to be like in policy or anything of that nature, but at least we have something to go back to say, here's what we agreed to. And what we want to be careful of is we just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. The goal is to recognize somebody. We don't want to, at the last minute, do something that hurts someone's feelings, right? So, okay, thank you.
So I was going to conclude by saying, so this is, I mean, it doesn't require an action. So if we want to bring it back, or as an action item or not, that's totally up to us. And then I just wanted to make the comment of when you, for folks out there in the district, is always, you know, this is not a popularity game, which I hope we take serious, including when we do Teacher of the Year, you know, make sure that, you know, you're looking at the qualities and what that individual is doing because, yeah, and you know what I forgot to say, sir, is I don't know if we want to go as far as to is like some food for thought, folks, is like limiting how many times the individual within a certain amount of time. And what I mean by that is, let's say that I nominate Estrella, so I nominate her next year. Y luego somebody else nominates her the following year. And then the following year, like, you know, that kind of, I think, would be like unfair to everybody else. So maybe just playing with the idea of maybe limiting, you know, within the time frame. Just food for thought. Okay, anything else? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 11B, policy IKFB, graduation exercises. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, we had a discussion on this last meeting, and I'm not sure that I felt like it needed to be back on because I don't know where we're at. And so I kind of need to open this up for conversation to see where to go. As I've reviewed it, you've had the opportunity to review it, I review it. Graduation exercises, there's some policy there. It talks more directly to top 10 and who's recognized and how that process is required to take place. And then the details of the ceremony currently are really left at the campus level. And I don't know where the board's at with those components.
Questions, comments? And then I really do want to hear from Ms. Rodriguez because the last time we had laryngitis, so it'd be awesome to hear from Ms. Rodriguez. But I open the floor for whoever wants to make comments. Anybody? Antes que yo vaya.
So I guess I will make the comment that last time, I know, unfortunately, there was only one administrator, right, that was here. But in reality, I think that this information was for all of the high schools, not just that specific campus. I guess the other thing was that there were several people or several students that were reaching out from that specific campus. But yes, I agree to what Mr. Castillo mentioned last time. That is really not within our purview, right? That's not our employees, so we can't say what they can and can't do. But one of the things that I did see is that because that memo existed from 2021, I believe it was, you know, to my understanding, that memo was in place still because I recall, I believe it was last graduation or perhaps one before that. No, I think it was last graduation, you know, there was that question and it was said, we're going to be following the same thing that was you know, that was on that memo. So one of my questions would be, where does that come where the campus administrator can make that change or make those, I guess, specifically, you know, making that percentage, which that is not part of what is on the memo. So I think that's where I was a little bit confused. And of course, I think that what was mentioned last time is, you know, the students are asking. So again, targeting, I guess, at that moment, that specific campus. But is this the culture that is happening within the other campuses as well? And more than anything, it's what the students really want. I think that one of the things that I do see is that, so again, if it's something that the students, where do we stand on that? Like, how much is their voice heard, and so that they could continue? So that's something that I just didn't quite, I guess I understood it, but at the same time, I couldn't verbalize any of it. So that's something that was just pending. I mean, I know this policy, when I saw it, it's like it has nothing to do with it. So I couldn't figure out like where we were correlating one with the other. But it is something, does it follow, instead of this policy, does it follow on the dress code policy?
Madam President, board members, it's kind of interesting, and I think Ms. Bodas had mentioned our dress code policy, and I think I linked, Mr. Snowden, I think I linked to those at the bottom of the slide. So if you go back to the slide, and at the bottom, no, go back. There at the very bottom corner is the link to a dress code policy. And what I would say when I read the dress code policy, it has nothing to do with graduation, in my opinion, whatsoever. It talks about uniform, and uniform has been a very well-established policy in Gadsden. You see some of our elementaries are clearly uniform schools. There's a process. Interesting enough, it requires a 75% approval rate from parents, and 2/3 have to participate in voting. And I think that's part of the conversation. And other than that, it really doesn't speak. So where I'm sitting, and the reason why I keep bringing this policy back is that's where the board operates, is in policy. And so if you want to make a change to something, this is the space that we want you to work in, so that we're not working in daily operation. So maybe give me a little bit more guidance on, and because the question I guess I have is, are we focused on the decoration of caps? Has it even evolved to requirements of how students are dressed? Some schools have different dress requirements for graduation. And so, you mentioned higher ed. Well, if you go to UNM's graduation, they may require something different than NMSU, right? I don't know. So I don't know how far we go. A little bit of a suggestion is go slow to go fast. And so you want to think through some of these processes. One of the things that I get very concerned with is graduation day is an incredibly honored day for our families, but the most stressful day for our secondary principals. There's no more pressure on them because they want it to be, it recognizes their school and those kids. And I know sometimes, our principals really do love our kids. They do. And so they want to see the good side of it. And I cringe to think of a situation where, if we haven't thought this through very well, that we have families in an audience, graduation band is about to play in 10 minutes, somebody's not in compliance, and a principal has to tell a kid, you're not walking. That just terrifies me, and I don't think that represents what anybody here, including the board, would ever want to do. So I just want to be very thoughtful how we proceed so that we don't have those hitches. No one would ever want that child to go through that. And remember, they are teenagers, right? Yes, they're graduating, yes, they're headed out in the world, and they are teenagers. So there are boundaries that always will be pushed, right? And what are those boundaries, and what do they look like? And so I need your help.
Do you want to respond to his comments?
I do have another comment. I think that, personally, I don't think that the policy really needs to be adjusted because I would say, just giving that opportunity to the students, right, to be able to voice what it is that they want. Something that I heard last time is that the amount of time allotted was not that much. And so, thinking back when, I still procrastinate many times, but thinking back when I was that age, I think that I had different priorities at the moment, and I would deal with those, and really knowing that this was coming up, but it wasn't like top of my list. So I'm thinking, could it have been that? Could it be that the students really are not so engaged with that at the moment? But then, because I even, that policy, or not that policy, that memo was done May. So it was like almost last minute, right? So because, and in my thinking, is it because of that, that the students were really, didn't even think about that? Right now, their thoughts are prom, things that are happening that are closer. So even though that they should be responsible of thinking about this, but I think maybe, just the time allotted, we need to think about that. And like I say, I think that more than anything is really listening to the voice of the students, and not so much, how, the way it's going to look. It looks beautiful, but if the student says something that they want, why not give them that opportunity, right? So that would be my thing.
Any other board members? Ms. Murillo, Mr. Lira, Mr. Castillo?
This is Board Member Lira, and I would like to echo on what Ms. Claudia said. Yeah, on the last meeting, Mr. Castillo did make me realize that the way that we approached it was going on the operations, but with further review on the dress code, I was able to see it. It clearly states that the board will not interfere with the right of students and their parents to make decisions regarding their appearance, except when their choices are affected by educational programs, and it goes on. As far as for graduation, I myself don't see an issue as well. I think that that's where, trends are going. I didn't do it when I was in high school, but now it's what the students want. And when are they going to voice it? You said some points. It's the most stressful, one of the most stressful days for the principals and the assistant principals. But it's been done in other schools in our district. It's not like if it's an issue, or I don't know, maybe there is issues and we can get some feedback from the other principals, and they can tell us, what, it's an issue. Or maybe they can say, what, guys, you guys are overthinking. It's not an issue, and we can go from there. But I do support this. I think that the kids should have the way to express themselves, especially when we don't have nothing that states that they can't do it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Castillo, do you have any comments?
Madam President, just like we don't have anything that says that they can't, we don't have anything that says that they're entitled to it either, right? That it belongs to them. Again, it's not that I don't want them to do it, but every time, you take a vote, and if you don't like it, are we going to vote again until we like it? And again, I think we're overstepping. Either we put it in policy, and then, to Mr. Dempsey's point, go slow to go fast, to make sure that everybody everywhere does the same thing, but again, right now, I believe we're still infringing on the administration, that campus administration, and depending where you sit, this conversation sure looks like we're retaliating against the campus because we didn't like what they're doing to their kids. And again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You can hear whatever you want to hear. You can see whatever you want to see. But again, the decision was made. Again, they're grown kids until it doesn't go their way, and then mom, dad, board members, hey, we're kids, how come you guys don't help us? And I'm sorry, and again, it's not that I don't want them to do that. It's they had the opportunity. Now, do we want to put in policy is that we got to give them a month to do their voting? Everybody's saying the time frame. We're all busy, all of us. Each one of us. We all have things on our plate. We all put more stuff on our plates for whatever reason. Again, right now where we're at, if we for a lack of better words. If we continue going down this path, this conversation, and at the end of the day, this campus administrator changes their mind to, again, from where I'm standing, it's looking like every time we have this conversation, it's pressure to say, you know what, pobrecitos, you know, and you know what, I thought our motto at Gadsden was no pobrecitos, let's do this. They had the opportunity, you know, for whatever reason. If it would have been, if that 30%, if those 80 kids, that 30% would have said, we don't want this done, and the 2 would have said, yeah, I'm sure that somebody out there would have said, it's still not 51%, so let's vote again, and then let's rally the troops to get that 51%. Again, we're walking that fine line in the other direction. I don't know that we're staying on that fine line. Again, it all again, you guys might think that, you know, hey, this is what I'm hearing, but this is how my mind works. Pobrecitos, let's fix it for them. They had the opportunity. They had the opportunity. And again, as long as we keep on having this conversation, to me, personally, if I'm the administrator for whatever school, you know, I keep on thinking the board is after me because of my decision.
Ms. Murillo, do you have a comment?
So I just, because I'm listening to Mr. Castillo, looking at the policy and what it says in the policy and graduation requirements, where are we interfering in the day-to-day operations when we're not even following the policy? Because nowhere in the policy states that each administrator is going to do their own thing for graduation. We just have one specific thing, and that's that.
Madam President, to Ms. Murillo's point, again, we don't have, everything we do, everything anybody does is not all written in policy, everything everywhere. There's practices that have been done, you know, and again, to that point, just because this has been done for freaking ever doesn't mean that it's right? But this have been practices, and until that practice bothers somebody, then all of a sudden, why isn't it in policy? You know, again, this was brought up. They've done this practice here this past couple of years, whatever, and this is what it was. And again, right now, all of a sudden, this practice isn't good because it didn't go the way somebody wanted it. Again, it's a practice. It's not in policy. If we want to fix this, then let's look at the policy, let's get the policy, and then let's go through it and say, this is how we as a board want every administration to do their graduations, be it elementary, junior high, high school. This is how they're going to do it, right? This is how they're going to do it, so that when we have the kindergarten graduation, then let the kids, you know, decorate their caps too, right? Let's let them, you know, because if we want it in policy, that's our job, right? Our job is policy and budget. Again, we're getting into their business. Our business, their business isn't, you know, if it's not in policy, it's not our business. Their practice isn't our business.
And 95%, I agree with you that it's policy and budget, because I stick to that. But where do we draw the line where we hear their voices? I don't think it's like a capricho of the students. I mean, if you look at the numbers, I mean, what, 9% of the people in Doña Ana vote for general elections. So just even putting 51% in a school and holding them accountable for the same way and being like, oh, well, they had the chance. Well, no, we don't even vote. I mean, it's hard to get those balances. So to me, I don't see that we're interfering, or I don't even see that we're retaliating on the administration themselves either. I think they brought it up to us. Hey, you know what?
they were discussing it. That's all it is. And we came to the fact that, you know what, we did our due diligence, their voices got represented, and we're here right now. That's it. But we're not, I don't feel, or the administration or principals should not feel threatened, or we're not going and doing anything above from what we've been discussing in the past 2 meetings. I do not see it that way. And I don't think she should either, or she does at this point. But going back to the same thing, these are just questions that are being asked. Hey, other high schools are doing it, why aren't we doing it? It's a discussion.
Madam President, Mr. Lira, I agree. But again, 95%, if you're 95% on board, then, you know, our job is policy. So then let's fix the policy. Let's fix the policy. Let's fix the policy for the kids.
Yeah.
So then let's fix the policy. Again, the practice is the practice. The answer was there. You know, it is what it is right now. But again, if right now, if we as a board tell administration, you want, take it back, we're getting into somebody's business that is not ours. And again, the reason we're having this conversation is because somebody out there wants it. Again, it's not, I'll sign the policy that it says let them decorate. I'll be the first one. I'll be the first one when it's that policy. Right now where we stand, as soon as we say take it back, it's not our business. That's my problem. It's not our business at this point. Let's make it policy, and then it'll be our business.
Go ahead, sir.
It'll just be my last comment, and this is just to Mr. Castillo as well. How do you interpret on the student dress? Because since we don't have anything, cap and gowns would fall under student dress. And it clearly says right here that, I mean, the board will not interfere with the right of students and their parents to make decisions regarding their appearance, except when their choices are affected for the educational program of the schools or the health and safety of others. And then it goes and states what the superintendent can do. And I mean, I don't see where, just because as it is right now, it's vague. Would you assume that the principal is not following the process the way that it is right here? Or how do you interpret that? I want to just see your opinion on that. Because if we have J2350 student dress, that is student dress, and they have to my interpretation, they can already do it, because that stays right here. We cannot interfere in their appearance, and from here on, there's nothing that is going to cause. I don't think painting or stickers on a cap and gown would present a hazard or health or safety, but I do agree as well that we're adding more work to the teachers by policing. They're gonna have to police to make sure that there's no gang symbols or drugs, alcohol, nothing to that nature. I do agree with that, but to me, as the policy is, it should already be allowed. But that's how you interpret it.
Madam President, Mr. Lira, I mean, that's what it says, right? I mean, that's black and white. We're not interfering with them, you know, there. We're interfering with the administration's decision, what they did, what the vote that they had, the survey, whatever it is. The administration there is not our employee. We're trying to tell that person what to do. That's not our place, right? Policy says that, you know, we shouldn't interfere in their dress, and we're not. We're not. As a matter of fact, you know, you're trying to make it better for them, you know. But again, what we're getting into is telling somebody that is not our employee what to do. We're telling this administration, take back what you did. We as a board want you to take it back and make it right for the kids. That is not our place.
Thank you for your comments, sir. If I may, colleagues, it's my turn. And so let me make my arguments, if you will, for lack of a better word. So I'm going to agree, you know, I think we need to look at policy and possibly change it, not to retaliate against Principal Suggs, but to do what's best for children. Now, it is correct that I'm going to agree with my fellow board members that our principals are not our employee. We only have one employee, Superintendent Dempsey. With that being said, sir, I have some questions for you. So back in that memo, and I don't know if you can pull it up, ma'am, when you sent the memo to, and she's going to pull it up for me, principals or whoever it was, we also were CC'd on it as board members, where you had the do's and don'ts. And so I believe, I was just asking Vice President Rodriguez if there is any documentation where you are specifically indicating that there has to be a vote, because I don't think it exists, sir. And if it was in verbal, like they said in special education, if it's not documented, it never happened. How would you like to respond to that?
Madam President, I think we need to start with the clarity around the memo. The memo really was designed for a group of students who never got a prom, never got homecoming, didn't see each other for a year and a half other than on a screen. It really forced myself to get far more involved in graduation ceremonies than as a superintendent I typically ever would. We had one ceremony at the racetrack, and I still chuckle a little bit of, I don't know whose bright idea that was, it was me, to do that in July during monsoon season, and we almost got dumped on, but we survived, right, somehow. Then our next was outdoor at the Sun Bowl. So I think really the memo was designed all along to recognize and give those students something special after a group of kids missed a lot. Then the whole idea, once we were back from pandemic, was these ceremonies now transition back to the campuses. So that's how I respond to anything to do with the memo.
Thank you, sir, for your comment. So I want the public to recall, there it is, it is recorded from the last board meeting. Let me see. So while I agree with your statement, sir. And I even said what I was going to say is at the last board meeting, I did mention that, because I know that those of you who are in the public, there's some of you who are opposed to this and are in favor of it, and you are making your own advocacies in your brains. I know you are. Entonces, what I'm about to say is that I had stated in the previous board meeting that I can see if somebody was going to make the argument, pues quítenselo a todos, the caps, because it was only the being able to decorate the cap was only specifically for the class of 2021. I can see that, sir, definitely. But obviously there has been a miscommunication, a lack of clarity as far as what needs to be done with that. And I did make it clear that I would hate to see the other comprehensive schools that are practicing this now for that to be taken away from our students. Maybe it's, just because somebody does there's things that just because everybody's doing it, you shouldn't do it. This is something, in my opinion, that is healthy. It's an opportunity for the kids to self-express themselves. So, yeah, I had made the statement that, somebody can make the argument that, hey, that only pertained to the class of 2021. I do see that. If you're thinking she doesn't see that, I see it. Okay, but again, I'm going to make the argument that, why do we have ST being the only one who obeyed while we have the other comprehensive schools decorating? To me, that's a clear sign of a miscommunication, a lack of clarity. So we definitely, now I'm thinking, should we change policy? I don't know at this point. Could we take care of this without changing policy? I don't know. I think we could. So it's just, I think we need to work on our communication and our follow-through, clarity. Let it be an example that we need to work on that. What I do want to continue is, and I I apologize because it's going to take a while, but this is very important. Okay. So if we all can reference graduation exercises, IKFB, if you go to the New Mexico School Board Association policy, and under Gadsden, you're going to find this. And so I'm going to read it. It says, graduation exercises will be held for students who have met state and local requirements for graduation from high school. All high schools will identify and recognize the top 10% of the graduation class as part of the graduation ceremony. Participation in high school commencements exercise is encouraged, but is not compulsory. Right there, policy is established. And so right there, it's telling me, hey, one example is if our kids want to walk on stage, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to, right? Clear as mud, or clear as, not clear as mud, clear as it is. However, since these exercises require planning and rehearsals, the following rules shall apply. So, rules. Bullet number 1, students who wish to participate must be present at the rehearsals. So that's telling me that anybody who wants to participate has to be present. It's not an option, it's a rule. And we make rules for safety and to follow, correct? Failure to do so, except for legitimate reasons for absence, may be cause for excluding students from participating in the exercises. So right there, there's a clear rule. You want to participate, you must be present at the rehearsals. Unless you're sick or some emergency, then there might be an exception. Rule established. Second bullet, students may not participate in the commencement exercises unless they have successfully completed the requirements for graduation and paid all fees, fines, and charges due. So another rule is, unless you're caught up paying your fees, turned everything in, you'll be able to graduate. No, so to me, these bullets are rules. Nowhere do the rules show, hey, you can't decorate your cap. Nowhere does the rules say you have to wear a cap and gown. So something to think about. Do we need to include in policy that we need to put that? I don't know. So we literally, there's a whole can of worms that I'm going to say that we are possibly opening. That I agree with Mr. Castillo that we're going to probably have to come back and study this and look at this carefully. So that's one point that I want to make. So yes, nowhere does it say, I think one of my fellow board members said, where does it say that procedures are given to the administrators? Nowhere does it say that. I'm going to go now to, I think, in my opinion, this is tied to JICA, student dress, another policy that we have. I don't know if you can present that. We can go to MSBA. So I'm going to read this one too. Student dress. The board recognizes that each student's mode of dress and grooming is a manifestation of personal style and individual presence. So that right there, like Mr. Lito was saying, is that we have no business telling how kids should dress. The board will not interfere with the right. So that to me is saying, well, if I'm for decorating caps, I cannot tell your son, you will decorate it. No, it's an option. Okay. But of course, it's not stated in here. The board will not interfere with the right of students and their parents to make decisions regarding their appearance, except when their choices affect the educational program of the schools or the health and safety of others. So I'm going to agree with Mr. Lita that this is open for interpretation because, it says the board will not interfere with the right of students. So maybe we do need to revise this because where does it say, and I mean no disrespect, where does it say that principals can interfere with the student of dress? An example is by telling them exactly what to wear underneath their cap and gown. I mean, that's an expression of their individuality. And call me crazy, but the day that we get a Native American, and we probably have Native Americans of descent, why if he or she wants to wear their Native American regalia and they happen to attend Santa Teresa High School Warriors, are we going to say you cannot wear your regalia because you must wear dress pants or whatever the code is? Just food for thought. Also, inclusivity. If individual that's born male but identifies as female, but in our eyes still looks male, are we going to say you must wear the dress because this is tradition? Food for thought. What about our students who have sensory issues? You know, a tie, not all gentlemen, and there's females who wear ties. You know, I don't think I've ever worn a tie. You know, some people don't wear ties. Some gentlemen in this room, I've never seen you with a tie because it might be uncomfortable to you. You know, whatever, you know, just food for thought, that there's many things to consider. Then I continue. The board authorizes the superintendent to develop and enforce school regulations prohibiting student dress or grooming practices. So here, I interpreted, okay, we can't interfere with dress. We're giving that to you, Mr. Dempsey. And, you know, you can obviously, as we're interested in you, the district, where you can, I don't want to say the word interfere, where you can intervene, is if you're seeing that their dress or grooming practices present a hazard to the health or safety of the student or others in the school. You at many times, sir, in public and on one-to-one, have shared that you have no personal problem with them decorating their cap. And I mean, you know, I don't think, and again, all of my opinion, I don't think decorating caps is a hazard to the health of anybody. Number two, materially interfere with schoolwork. They've already completed their work. How is decorating a cap going to interfere with their schoolwork? Create disorder, disrupt the educational program. Cause excessive wear or damage to school property. Maybe they're going to mess up the floors of the Don Haskins Center when they throw their cap. You know, it's not damaging anything. And I think one of our kids mentioned, I think her name is Katarina or Katrina, one of our Santa Teresa High School student reps who sits on the dais with us from the last board meeting. She mentioned that's actually another reason to be able to decorate your cap is that you'll be able to find it when you engage in throwing the caps. I mean, and there, like, where does it say that, you know, at this point I can make the argument, well, where does it say that you have permission to throw your caps? It can be as ridiculous as we want to get, or as simple, keep it simple, right? Prevent students from achieving their educational objectives, represent membership, and again. So obviously, you know, the other comprehensive high schools and our Desert Bride Academy and our, which is a non-comprehensive high school, and what's the other one, Alta Vista, they've been engaged in this, and I'm just curious, like if and it's not my place, I'm not gonna do it, but I'm just curious if I was to ask the principals, what is your understanding of, you know, that where did you think you could continue decorating? I don't know, I think that, again, I think it's a lack of communication, lack of clarity. The other thing in this particular policy is obscene language or symbols of sex, drugs, or alcohol on clothing. So, you know, you had said, Mr. Dempsey, on the do's and don'ts, it's as simple as not putting inappropriate things on that cap. Now, I agree, sir, that, you know, graduations are very stressful at the high school level. I can see it, you know, evident. I see Mr. Wogemuth, Ms. Lopez, Ms. De La Garza, Ms. Ledwig, Ms. Uggs. Yeah, they're under stress, but is this, where there's a will, there's a way. You had made the suggestion of classroom officers checking their caps. You know, make the kids responsible, but ultimately, yeah, make the kids responsible, but who ultimately is responsible is the adults. We got to make sure that those caps are decorated properly, you know, and maybe if the other comprehensive high schools can do it, then you know what, go talk to Principal Lopez. She's doing a phenomenal job then in graduation, making sure that that's getting done, you know. So if it's happening in other high schools, I think there's a way. And I know you're gonna like what I'm gonna say. Like I said the last time, is this an adult culture? Is this something that adults have established? That, you know, this is tradition, and I get it, there's traditions and beautiful things about individual schools, just like here at Loma Linda, there's probably traditions. But I think traditions should be based not on what's good for kids, and some traditions have to change. Gadsden Independent School District is a shining star in New Mexico because we have decided to break traditions, to make change, and change is difficult, but it's good. The last policy that I wanted to look at is policy JICA student dress. which is a regulation. And it states, the district has a handbook of information regarding the implementation of school uniforms, titled School Uniform Policy. Initial placement of school uniforms should be done according to procedures in this handbook. And some of my colleagues in the board and you in the audience might say, well, that's open to interpretation, Mrs. Flores. Well, yes, I can interpret this that, hey, uniforms. I'm going to continue. Student uniforms shall be adopted at school sites where at least 75% of parents vote and 2/3 of those voting approve a school uniform program. Student exemptions from compliance with the adopted school uniform program may be granted by the principal under certain conditions. Here I'm also questioning, so what do we define as a uniform? Because a uniform, and again, I mean no disrespect, a uniform could be at ST High School, the slacks, the white shirt, the tie. Why I bring the gentleman more is because that's very noticeable. I don't know what I'll be transparent, I'm not sure what the rules are for the young ladies. But again, if a young lady identifies as a male, are we going to force that individual that now identifies as a male to wear a dress, to wear heels or whatever we got to look into that. And then as far as uniform, you're wondering, why is she bringing this up? Well, because nowhere here does it tell me a uniform is specific. Like I know is Loma Linda uniform school? Okay, so Loma Linda is a uniform school. I know that in my community, you're looking at Desert Trail, Chaparral Elementary, Yucca Heights. Those are uniforms. But here there's no also clarification of what specifically is a uniform. A uniform is when you are looking the same from top to bottom. Does this mean that I should maybe I can interpret well? Then maybe we need to give the Santa Teresa High School parents, the ability to vote whether we have these dress codes or not, just food for thought. What else? In the previous school board meeting, our principal had stated that this is a way to teach responsibility to vote. I also said that I respectfully disagree, will continue to respectfully disagree, because there are other ways to teach responsibility. The young lady who sat at the dais too, she was not able to vote because she was not aware that this survey had been open, and it seemed like it was maybe open. I don't know if this is fact, but what I recall, maybe like a Thursday, Friday, the weekend, and then it closed maybe Sunday, Monday. So it was only a couple of days. There's priorities, and I said that I disrespectfully disagreed because she is learning responsibility not through a survey. She's learning responsibility by the fact that she's attending DACC. She's doing the dual credit. She is that's responsibility. Doesn't make her better than somebody who's staying at Santa Teresa High School and taking all their classes. It's just an opportunity she chose to take. To me, that's showing responsibility. Again, I'm gonna say something that some of you, I see you. Some of you are shaking your heads, disagreeing, agreeing. I see that, and you're right. You're right. You have the right to your opinion, just like I do, and to react just like I do. I didn't say this the last time, but I'm like, were we trying to suppress the vote of our students by having it in a limited time? Did we really make an effort to advertise the vote? Because according to this young lady, she didn't know. It took a classmate to let her know, hey, did you vote? She missed the deadline. So how did we do a fair job? Or was it fair enough to where everybody knew, or were we trying to suppress the vote? I don't know.
I actually had that thought as well.
Okay.
To me, it went, now that you say it, I mean, who knows? It may have happened like that. I don't know. But it could have happened, so.
What I also find very interesting, again, personal opinion, is, 3 years ago, when the class of 2021, we had, I don't know if we were in person, Mr. Dempsey, or they were talking, I don't recall. I don't think nobody was present. I think they submitted, because of the COVID pandemic, I think statements were submitted via email, I think. Who knows? Like, don't quote me on that. It's coming to mind that I think I read them out loud. So we had a turnout of kids, who submitted whatever. I don't think they were in person. So what I also find very interesting, again, my opinion, the kids that reached out to myself, to Mr. Lita, I'm not sure about the other board members, where are they here, even if they don't want to speak, or, and I know that there's a chain of command, but, are they afraid of retaliation? Just food for thought, okay? I did have a kid reach out, and again, I don't know if this is fact or not, but ever since the last board meeting, there really hasn't been a discussion with the class of 2024 warriors as far as administration and them, as far as where we're moving. They indicated, I think it's a done deal, Mrs. Flores, we're not going to get to decorate our caps. And I'm like, just my opinion is like, really, we're not even going to have a discussion. Not me, but, and I would encourage, don't retaliate, warriors of class of 2024. Go talk to your principal. Your voice matters. Express your thoughts. Make an appointment with Principal Suggs. If you are a shy student, you've got your class officers who are probably the outgoing kiddos, and class officers, who the shy kids are. Make an appointment. Go talk to the administration. Talk to Mr. Dempsey. Do it. He's got an open door policy. At the end, I guess I'm going to conclude, is that, I don't see anything wrong. It was not my intent to overstep the boundaries as a board member or tell the principals what to do. I think it's, in the end of the day, it's a learning lesson. You know what? Advocate for yourself, do it in a professional manner. Know your policies, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but I conclude with that. Fellow board members, do you have anything else to say, Ms. Murillo? Silencio. No, Mr. Castillo.
Madam President, food for thought, right? I mean, you said food for everything you put out there. We're gonna have to be ready for it, because you said, this might open a can of worms. You just did. I mean, it might not. You just did. So that being said, you just told everybody, go in and date Ms. Suggs' office. You just told everybody, go and sign up, right? So, I mean, you opened the can of worms, right? So we're going to have to be ready so that when Ms. Suggs calls in and says, I got, all these people calling me, right? All these students here, all their parents, again, it's going to feel like retaliation. It's going to feel like it, because after this conversation, you're the one that told them, go, right? So you can quote me on that. You can make sure it's written. You just opened that can of worms. Again, it's not that I do not want them to decorate, I'll be the first to sign that policy, let's fix it. Let's fix it. I got no problem with that. But again, that can of worm is open.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Castillo. Anybody else?
Mr. Dempsey, I'm the board member that brought this to the discussion, and I would like to see from you, I guess we all have a position, and which is pretty strong. And obviously, we want to get it resolved before May. I myself would like to have it done through policy. I mean, if it's a verbiage, just to comply and put it for action. I mean, at the end of the day, we got elected. We have to take votes. Sometimes we're gonna take some votes that they're gonna shake us. Some are gonna be easier. But I mean, we're here to take votes at the end of the day. So I mean, I would like to see just a for vote, and that's it. Put it to rest. So what is a process for that? Can we do something for April 11th?
Madam President, board members, your board could. What we need is, and I'm still a little, I need some clarity. I'm still a little confused whether we're talking about graduation caps and decorating them or student dress.
Well, this started as graduation caps, but now that it's been brought in, I myself need to do more my due diligence in learning more about the student dress and understand how the complexity works on each school. And I think I can do that in the next couple of days, just to understand if I would actually want to go further into this and see even my district and my schools, which is Riverside, Sunland Park, Riverside, Desert View, and Santa Teresa Middle School and High School, how they're approaching their dress code, and see, I mean, maybe going back and doing a survey if that's a possibility. I mean, I don't know when were uniforms adopted, but I mean, we're here to create policy, and maybe it's a time to change policy for my schools. I mean, that's what I would like to see. But one resolution that I would like to have, it's at least on April 4th, nail in on the cap and gowns. That's one. And
okay, Madam President, board members, I appreciate that. And what you just said something that had kind of not 100% been clarified, and I find that missing in a policy is there's no requirement to have gowns. And what I would respond to that, if somebody questioned, I would say, well, from a board perspective, if it's not in policy, now we know if it's in policy, it's required. If it's not in policy, a good rule of thumb is that's operational. That's going to rest on campus administration. And so what I think I heard Mr. Lita say, and I think this is a really good space to have a really good policy conversation, is are we saying we're going to require caps and gowns at every graduation? Kinder, 6th grade, middle school, high school, or just some? We've got to figure that out.
One thing that I'm just not understanding, I mean, if it's not required, then how does administration have the right to just do a survey and say that they cannot decorate their cap and gowns? And that's just, can you clarify that for me in the process?
Hey, how
is it implemented? I mean, can you make me understand that?
Well, I think from an operational side, I'll give you an example. I had a football coach in one of my schools that no student's going to get on that bus without a collared shirt and a tie. It ain't going to happen. And there was nowhere written that was required. When they went to basketball, same kids, there was no requirement. There's nothing written that says he could or couldn't do that. And I guarantee we have coaches doing that today. Graduation exercises is, to me, an extension of those extracurricular activities. There's no requirement to participate in graduation ceremonies. So that's an event that's owned by the district, and that's where those campus administrators say, here's the parameters we're going to establish. And we can call it tradition. Some things are written, some are not. I might jokingly say, I don't think there's a policy that says we're going to serve lunch. But guess what? Every day we serve lunch, right? And so not everything in the world can be written. It's not possible. But one of the things I might suggest is maybe an opportunity to hear from the people it's going to impact on the campus. Hear from our secondary principal. Give them a chance to share. And maybe they have some compromise there.
And I was under the impression that was going to happen today. That they were going to give some feedback.
And so, I'm going to piggyback on what he said, because when we were preparing the agenda, sir, and just for correction, I'm not sure how we do this, but on the cover page of the item on the agenda, Mr. Lita was the one that requested. I didn't. And it's been posted twice previous board meeting and this board meeting that he and I requested when it was really him. But when we were preparing the agenda, you had mentioned, if I'm correct, that administrators wanted to address, so I wasn't even bringing this up. And maybe that was the understanding too that I had myself. But
My recollection was, I do think secondary principals might have something to share here. Typically, just for everybody to kind of gather, what Ms. Flores and I, the process we've worked out is typically it's a weekend. However, because of a Tuesday meeting, I think we met Thursday evening or afternoon last week, because the spring break is unique. But I guess it's spring break. My staff deserves to enjoy their spring break, not prep a presentation a few days before a meeting. And so I've got to, at some level, be fair to them too. I'm going to do everything possible to not call people on holidays unless I have to, which is why actually we met Thursday, because I knew my tech staff were off, everybody was off Friday. And so I just think some of those pieces. So what I guess I need is, and what I don't want to ever do is disappoint the board. I just want to be clear on your expectations. And so what I think I'm hearing is that you would like to hear from our secondary principals, how they feel about, and we're talking about decorating caps and gowns. And then Mr. Lita is asking for a very specific addition to our policy. I feel like it belongs in graduation exercises. Do we agree there? Right? Because I think if we get into dress code, I think we're going to end up, right?
But at one point, I am going to bring dress code just to leave it.
fine.
I want to, my mind is working. Sure. So I want to go in a little bit deeper on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what I think I'm being asked to do is try to develop or design an addition to our graduation exercises policy specific around, first, required to wear caps and gowns. And then second, what I think I'm hearing is how, if they're determined to decorate. And here's then the question. Is the board giving me a directive to say they're decorating, or are we designing a process to see if they're decorating?
I think a process.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, for me, I would like to see a process.
For me, I would say a process that is fair, equitable, and, possibly the idea of, you choose to decorate or not. We're not gonna. I don't want it to say you will decorate. For every kid to have the option to decorate or not decorate. Regulations, rules of what can be on the cap. Rules as far as how far in advance you must decorate the cap to be fair to administration, to make sure that they're complying, so that because yes, we don't want to audiences watching, and I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody with an inappropriate cap on there.
So, and I need to hear probably from Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Castillo and Mr. Lita, help me here. And I'm sorry, Secretary Murillo, jump in. What I think I'm interpreting from Mr. Lita is develop a process to see if the class is going to decorate. What I heard from Ms. Flores was, I want them to be able to decorate. That's a different process, I think, or different wording.
I would actually echo what Ms. Flores said, like for them to have the option to do it, the process.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Castillo, Ms. Murillo.
So at this moment, this is a discussion. So I really need to process all of this. I mean, it's a whole lot. I don't want to, say one or the other, because like I said, it's a whole lot of information, and I think that there's a lot of thinking that needs to be done, because yes, we do not want to impose anything, But at the same time, we do want to make sure that, or at least that's something that I would like to see, and I mentioned it previously, making sure that the voice of the students is heard. That's all that I would really incline to, but definitely not stating, whether it's going to be on policy or not. I don't want that. I don't want to do that at this moment.
Madam President, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Dempsey, a process to see whether or not we would let them decorate, that's what I would want, whether or not we would. Once we're there on how we do the process, because the process may or may not help us with what we're going to consider what they can or can't, because again, we put into policy that we're going to allow them to do. I'll put money that we're going to forget something, it's going to come up, and then we're going to have to revise, and then we're going to forget something again. So at this moment, I would say a process on, whether or not we're going to allow them to decorate.
Ms. Murillo, are you there?
I don't know if anybody's speaking, but I can hear Mr. Dempsey very clear, but I cannot hear anybody else. I don't know what anybody else said, but I do want to let you guys know that for me, I don't want to interfere to the day-to-day operations, but I do want to see consistency across the board. So if something happened in 2021 and there was a memo and some school followed them and then the other school decided to retract, I would like to hear from the principals what happened there. What happened that there couldn't be a consistency? Where did everybody get together? So I would like to hear from the principals. I do think unity is the way to go, but yeah, I don't know what anybody else is. So I'm sorry, I apologize. But please, if you guys can get closer to the microphone, because the only person that I can hear clearly is Mr. Dempsey.
You couldn't hear her?
Madam President, towards the end, I was really having a hard time understanding.
Yeah, and that's, okay, can somebody, because I heard bits and pieces, Danny, tú estás más cerca. Go ahead.
Madam President, Ms. Murillo says she wants consistency. What she wants is consistency. She does want to hear from the administrators to see, I guess, where the, break in communication or lack of communication, how they decided or whatnot. But she wants consistency across the board, I guess, as far as all high schools or all schools. But right now, what she wants is consistency. But she did say that she does not want to get into the day-to-day operations of the school's administration.
Thank you, sir.
Madam President, Board members, so I think and I think those are great points. Let's get back to how we got where we're at. Pandemic, group of kids who missed a lot of other activities, and then just like before the pandemic, give it back to the campus. So I know there's a difficult piece here, but we wrestle with it, and we're going to see it, and we're going to talk about community meetings. We don't offer the same classes at every high school. Should we? I think after this community meeting, you're going to find out. There's some classes we offer at Gadsden High School nobody in Chaparral really cares about. So can we make everything identical? And could we? Yes. Would that be what serves all, I'm going to say 9, 10 communities, or a bunch of little, Gadsden's a bunch of little bitty communities? I don't think we truly would be serving our communities if we said everything has to be identical. I really don't. So the consistency is those principals are tied to their kids and their community. So that's when I personally said, look, because let's keep in mind things that we've continued. Prior to the pandemic, We didn't hand out yard signs. There's some other pieces of this, and I don't know, I'm not remembering them all, but like yard signs is something. Shirts, T-shirts. I did do the T-shirts, actually. Before, pre-pandemic, every year from the superintendent's office, we give out a senior T-shirt, and we kind of make a big deal of it, and our kids get to wear it, and it's kind of neat to start seeing those around the community. We added to that during the pandemic yard signs, and then we've maintained that for everybody. And I'm not suggesting we change any of that, but I'm just saying, you see how things sometimes just, and what I caution the board in, I don't want to put our secondary principals in front of the firing squad to say, oh, you weren't consistent. I don't think that's fair to them, because I didn't give them that guidance. I didn't say, you have to do it this way, nor did we draft a policy. So, and I don't think any one of you want to do that, but I want us to be careful as we do this so that we don't, I want us to operate as a team here. And that means that doesn't mean we always agree, but we have to be respectful of each person's role. Board member's role, administrator's role. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity for them to present and kind of share that and hear your feedback from that. But I just don't, I felt like it was important to say, they didn't purposely say, this is how we're going to do this. ST's always been a little bit different. A couple of our classes, one of our groups, they recognize the top 10 and the top 10%. So the top 10 students, and I believe those parents hand them their diploma, but at every campus. So there's some unique things that I'm not sure we truly want to change. DPA has one of the most unique graduations, and I for sure don't want to change that. Those are the happiest kids and parents in the world, because they came to a point that they didn't think their child was going to make it. And so I don't know, I just share that to make sure we don't, this idea of they should have been consistent, just be careful there, because I never gave them that directive, and I might even suggest neither did the board.
Yeah, and just to add to what you said, Mr. Dempsey, yeah, I mean, consistency, it would be hard to have every issue here, but at the end of the day, if every issue is here, we vote on every issue. I mean, that's not, I think we're just spinning on the same issues. One side is going to say one argument, the other side is going to counter with that argument, and we're dealing with a cap and gown issue. That's what I would like to see. Simple. If there's a process by, hear from the principals on April 11th and put it into action and take it to vote. I mean, I'm an actions guy. Let's go ahead and do it rather than trying to persuade or dissuade either way. I mean, this is a topic that we're dealing with, and it has escalated all the way to this level. And we're going back to, it's going to happen, or what if we do this, or what if it does that? Let's just go ahead and, I think you feel the consistency in the board and where we're going to stand on. I mean, that's simple. So me as adding this process, I would like to go ahead and see it. If they feel that way, they're going to feel that way. I mean, it's not going to be the only time that they're going to feel that way. Or maybe she says, you know what, if she feels okay with what with what she did, and the votes don't happen here, then I mean, I'm going to feel a certain way because I didn't deliver. So, I mean, I just see the same thing over and over. I would like to just see a small process to see how we make it more transparent at the policy level, because aside from cap and gowns, aside from dress policy, the way that I interpret the policy, they should be allowed to do it without any changes. That's the way that I interpret it, and that's the same way that I'm going to take my vote. So I would like to go ahead and see that process done, rather than listening to sides or what they're going to feel or what they're not going to feel. That's it. That's actually it for me today.
I appreciate that clarity, and I will get to work on that, and that presentation, and I'll try to get you a draft of a policy as soon as we possibly can put something together.
Okay. Nobody else? Any final comments? Okay.
Ms. Flores.
Mande.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Did I mean that, I guess by consistency, Mr. Dempsey just made a really good point about the church. And that's how I see the graduation capping gown, and then what is it, the tassel, I think is what they wear. No, they wear something else. Some of the schools. It's like Mr. Dempsey and the administrators giving the teachers to everybody except for one school. I think, they're missing out on something fun and something that they want to be part of, just like everybody else. So I guess that's what I'm looking at it. Yes, we don't all offer the same courses at every school. Some from Gadsden do have made calls about, they want to be taking some of the courses that Santa Teresa does. We have a couple of students that Santa Teresa brought up last year that they wanted to be part of FFA, but Gadsden does it, right? So I think it's finding a common ground when it comes to that, but I don't see so much in a negative way. It's more like, in a positive way, to share the fun stuff. And also because it is a public meeting, and I know teachers and I know administrators are watching this. I do want to caution everybody about their comments when it comes to caps and gowns, because there has been comments, and I know this because I have been told this myself, from some teachers saying, you should be happy that Santa Teresa is not doing that because it looks tacky, because some girls do not know how to dress a cap. I don't like those comments because it creates division. And so I do feel that, again, it's really hard for me to hear what everybody else is saying, but I do feel like that's where I'm hitting when it comes to my comment with consistency.
Thank you, Ms. Murillo. Okay, so we conclude with that discussion item, and we're going to move on now to discussion item 10C, Monday? 11C, community meetings, GISD strategic planning process. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, so with our strategic planning process, if you'll remember the last go-around of these, we had 3 community meetings, one in each of our feeder patterns, Gadsden, ST, and Chaparral. And so we're back ready to do that. I'm really excited about this opportunity. If you'll recall, what it is everybody that comes to participate, they're basically brainstorming and giving us a list of needs, and then through a process, that list of needs gets prioritized. So when you walk out that night, you know what the top 5 things are in each community. And it was very eye-opening to me. Now, I do want you to know, we tentatively have dates on these. I need my glasses. I think it's Monday, April 15th at Chaparral High School, Tuesday, April 16th at ST, and Wednesday, April 17th at Gadsden. Mr. Castillo, you already see a scheduling conflict.
Madam President, yeah, we got the NSBA region meeting on the 16th.
On the 16th. Okay, I think I can adjust that. So I'm gonna don't write those dates down. I'm gonna work on that because he's right. We're in Cloudcroft at the region meeting. So I'll work on that piece and see what we can do there. But keep that kind of space in mind. I think I can just shove those, 1 or 2 days, and I think I can still make that work. Ms. Rendon will lead that process from CES. And here's the other good news. If you remember the last time, we paid for that process. Because we're participating in that 6-year study with CES, they'll do it, they'll comp it. And I think it's a great opportunity to hear from the community, hear what they need. Now, here was the hard part for me. And Mr. Chavez warned me about it, and it drove me crazy as I sat listening. As administrators, we don't participate. And the reason being, we don't want to influence those community members. And so we sit back and we listen. And it frustrated me a little bit, and Mr. Chavez, I can't remember what it was. It was some specific program that came up that they said, well, this is very important. And I thought, we already have that. And he, Mr. Chavez in his kind way said, well, Mr. Dempsey, what's that say about how well you've communicated that to your community? And then, that arrow dug right dead in my heart. And it helped me realize, gosh, we got to work hard on that. I didn't do a good job of getting that information out. And so I'm really excited about it. I'll adjust those dates and get them to everybody. and make sure we all try to keep those away from any other activities or events that are going on. But that is coming up, and Mr. Lita, especially as a new board member, these are great opportunities for you to, what you'll get to see, and you don't necessarily have to be at every meeting. I really strongly encourage you to go as many as you can, because you'll see a difference, right? You'll see that difference in communities, and it hits you pretty hard of how they see things differently, and it helps you kind of adjust, and then it helps us work on our action plans of how we're going to meet those needs. So it's super, it's very powerful in my opinion. So I just encourage you to try to participate if you can. Yeah, any questions you have around it, but I'll make sure, I'll adjust those dates and get that out to you.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, I just want to make a comment. I think that it is extremely important for people to be aware that this is happening, because yes, last time it worked good, but I think if we saw percentages, you know, the parents really need to be out there, and not only the parents, but also the students. I think, you know, their voice is extremely important, and listening to what the needs are and what they're looking for. So communicating that information as soon as possible so that there's participation, I think is going to be critical.
Absolutely.
Mr. Lita.
So we have, you know, just about every social media platform, but we typically are going to utilize our Remind app, and that Remind is for every parent that has a child enrolled. And so that's probably our biggest pool, but social media as well, because we don't, it could be graduates that don't have their children, they don't have kids in school. They're still taxpayers, they're still community members. We still want to hear from them. And so we want to try to use multiple avenues. So any avenues that you have or tools, we're open to using those, because we want as many people from our community to participate. To the point made earlier, it could work against you in that you get a small group, and then those are the things you focus on. Now, another part that's a little exciting for me is Mr. Wogameth, we were talking about this today, he pulled up the list from the last group. And it was pretty exciting to me to look at the top several things, and we could really say, yep, we did that. Oh, we're still working on that. We have a plan for that. I'm going to suggest it's nice to look back and say, wow, in the last 3 years, we have done quite a bit. We've moved. And so that's the point of that strategic plan, to make sure we are moving and to see that.
Any other comments? I do have some comments, sir. That is wonderful news, and I really look forward to it being facilitated by Gloria Rendon. Excellent lady. Yes. And the other thing is I would request that that the advertisement of these meetings be, like you said, through Remind for our parents that have that Remind, but also through all our social media platforms. I'm not sure, I can only speak for my community. You all can also reach Colquitt Water Company, because I think, I'm not sure what I saw in my water bill, something came with a flyer for something, I forgot what it was. That way we can reach all stakeholders. It's important that we reach all stakeholders, not just parents of our students, because they do pay into our tax base. They are the ones that approve the bonds, and we need to honor those individuals in the community that did vote in favor of our most recent bond, and that we value their input, because just because you don't have a kid, you know, you have a say of what you would like to see these future citizens be productive citizens, because in the end, these little ones are going to be the ones that are taking care of us when we find ourselves in the ER. These are the ones that are going to be serving us, you know, when we go to restaurants, they're going to be the managers, etc. So we need the input of everybody. So that would be greatly appreciated, sir.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to discussion item 11D, New Mexico Public Education Department 180th Day Rule. Superintendent Dempsey.
Oh, Madam President, board members, this is one of the probably most controversial rules that New Mexico Public Education Department has submitted in my tenure as a superintendent. What they did finally pass and is that some school districts in New Mexico can be 40 weeks, and so, but there's requirements to doing so, and that is tied to your proficiency levels. What I want you to know is our current calendar has early release on Wednesdays, and we were concerned with the initial language if we could keep that in place. And we'll know 100% by the end of this week at spring budget, but we're about 99% sure we're fine. So we should very soon be able to get a calendar in front of the board, get that formally approved, and then get moving on that piece. And it does look likely our Wednesday early releases are fine. It defined a school day as 5.5 hours. And because it's an early release, not a half day, that then gives us that window, and we meet all the hour requirements. So I think it's very likely that our current calendar would be approved. So I just want you to be aware of that. We worked real hard in October and November to try to get a calendar in front of you. And then this rule came out, and we just said, wait a minute, let's not confuse everybody and put something out that then has to be changed again. So we paused. I think we have the guidance. Now, what I also want you to know is, as you get around other boards, there's a lot of energy from some districts to consider legal action in terms of like a temporary restraining order on this. And I will even suggest the legislative body had attempted and passed some very specific language included in House Bill 2 that was line item vetoed out. So I think there was some legislative intent here too. So I wouldn't recommend to us at this time to get really involved because we can proceed. Why would we spend our money that way? My opinion, our money's here for Gadsden kids. But you may hear from other board members an encouragement to engage in that. And I'm not suggesting it may be an argument that says local controls being threatened a bit here because local boards decide the calendar. And so that's just something to think about as we go to regional meetings and even our law conference. I'd be interested. I bet you there'll be a breakout session on this specific item. But I think legislatively, I could see something come up in the next legislative session that's pretty specific around this.
Comments, questions? So I did have a question, sir, and I know I had asked it, but that way you can answer and the board members and the public can hear. While I totally agree that supporting them by us signing the lawsuit or whatever you want to call it would engage us in paying monetary money. So I agree fully 100% with you. However, just my personal opinion is how can we, if we choose to support them, what are other ways to show them support? Because, if these smaller districts that are benefiting from the 4 days, I don't want them to think, oh, you don't support us, but they have to also realize that, hey, we're a bigger district, if we get involved, we're going to have to pay, but how are other ways that we can show support, if any?
Madam President, probably the simplest way is to pass some type of a resolution. If you put together like a resolution and put it in front of the board, and then I think my recommendation would be you might want to focus that around local control and emphasize, and then I think the other piece is probably send that to our legislators to say, we want to retain some local control here, and we see this as a threat to it. I'm not going to, some of the stipulations for that 4-day week, in order to maintain it indefinitely, you have to have 80% of your students proficient in reading. That's a pretty high bar. Would I consider bringing to the board the idea of that if we got a school that got 80% proficient? Yeah, I'd bring it to you. And schools that do it, terrific. Schools that don't, you go 5 days. You got to earn it. And am I closing the door to that? I don't know how each of you feel, and I don't know if that is even realistic. But the way it's written, if it motivates others to push a little harder and take that extra, then why wouldn't we use it as an opportunity, right? So I think maybe a resolution might be the safest place to go, and then show that support at some level.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Dempsey. Finally, moving on to item 12, there's a list, I'm not going to read them to you, of our upcoming board meetings. and events for the rest of the school year. And while it's not on here, I mean, I just, especially for Mr. Lira, I do know Mr. Lira, and just a reminder that our principals normally send out an invitation for the graduation award like ceremony, and that's the event where our seniors are getting acknowledged for the scholarships that they're receiving, or the exchange of the gowns for the 10% or whatnot. So, you know, you'll be getting an invitation. Just that's not going to be listed here, but just FYI. Okay. And then I did want to disclose in public for myself is that I have requested for personal reasons to remove myself from attending the New Orleans, the trip. So anyways, with that being said, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Awesome. Mr. Castillo has made a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We are now adjourned. Folks, have a safe trip home. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
¿Sí? Vamos, déjame tomarle un foto.